Ah, sorry. Might have be better if I put my microphone on. Hi. Welcome to a live show here. So welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity today, and I'm your host, Todd DeVoe, and today we're talking about being a meta leader during crisis. So we're going to discuss a little bit about Eric McNulty's from Harvard's NPLI, and the author, or one of the authors of the book, Youre It. And it's a great book. If you have not read this book and you are in any kind of leadership role or you want to be in a leadership role, I highly recommend it. And so this book describes what meta leadership is and what you do as a leader seek the big picture as or a perspective beyond the obvious towards an understanding of how multiple connected factors act and interact with one another. Whew. Yeah, that's a lot of words right there, Eric. So it describes on how leadership isn't just about walking into the room and being in charge. That's boss, manager. There's been debate back and forth between what is a manager and what is a leader. And one of the things, just before we kind of get deeper into this, I like the idea, and this is the concept that I use, that a manager or a boss, right, the chief of police or whoever's up there, right, he could be a good manager, but not necessarily a great leader, or she. And when it comes to this, right, what it is the person who's in the position of managing the daily stuff. That's great. Leadership, though, can also come in from your lowest level guys and girls that are out there doing the stuff, right? The locker room leader, if you will, right? The coach is the leader of the team, but sometimes there's that locker room leader, and actually a good manager, a good leader from up top would be able to recognize those locker room leaders and really work with them to make things go forward with smoothly. The idea of leadership has gone back, since the beginning of time. And if you take a look at like Plato, so Plato was dissatisfied with the rulers who lacked the knowledge and the moral strength according to the common good. In other words, rulers motivated by self-interest. And so that's a really big difference between a leader and somebody who is not a leader. It's whether they are motivated by self-interest or the interest of the people who they are in charge of. So Plato proposed instead that states should be governed by philosophers who love wisdom, and so basically that's what the meaning of philosophy is, right? Is wisdom. And so the study of wisdom. And so there's a couple different things here. As a leader, if you're looking to move into leadership, what you really should be thinking about is prudence, justice, temperance, and courage. Prudence, justice, temperance, and courage. So prudence is wisdom. Justice is fairness, right? Be a fair leader, tough but fair. I think some of my favorite leaders that I've worked for, my bosses, have been those that were fair. They would tell you, they call you out on the carpet when you needed to be chastised, and they were fair about it, but they weren't heavy-handed on the way they dealt with things, and it was much better relationship. And I would do most anything for people like that were my leaders, all the way from when I was in the military up to today, right? And then leaders need to know and understand what needs to be done. Peter Drucker, who's one of my favorite people to read, he asks, what do I want to do? Right? Or doesn't ask what I want to do. He asks what needs to be done. What needs to be done? What tasks, what jobs need to be done? Not what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? Things like this. So understanding that. In a crisis, the idea of what needs to be done, right, is key, because there are many, many people out there that during a crisis can get the trivial things done, right? Those, like, I don't know, shuffling your papers on your desk. It's a task that you completed, but does it really move the organization forward? And during a crisis, some of those trivial jobs like that can be set aside to later, right? Those low hanging fruit, if you will. But looking and understanding the big picture and understanding what needs to be done and putting all your forces to that. We're in a crisis today with the COVID, right? It's called the health crisis, the COVID health crisis. Businesses are closing left and right. And so, what is going to be the difference between those businesses that are able to survive through this downturn, survive through this crisis, are going to be those that understand what is the big picture and being able to get what needs to be done and leaving those trivial things to be done later. Leadership is active, it is not passive. So the effective leaders check their performance, right? They write down their goals, the goals for their teams, and they check their performance based upon those goals, right? We talked about goals before on BCT, and so you can go back and take a look at goal setting. But what's really important to understand, like, it's not just writing those goals down to go, okay, this is what we're gonna do. You need to check the performance on those goals, and then during a crisis, if things aren't going correctly, right, based upon those goals and objectives, sometimes you have to understand how to pivot, right? Don't get locked into, one thing if it's not working out well. Figure out what's going on with it. Check your performance against it, and if you can, you need to pivot to be able to make this, to make your goal or to work yourself out of this crisis. So, when faced with a crisis, most leaders are forced to think and behave in ways that they feel unfamiliar. And so, whether it's using technology, financial, natural, or like we're in today, a health crisis, we work in unfamiliar and uncomfortable positions. But as an effective leader, again, you are able to pivot your goals and objectives to meet those uncomfortable situations. How do we do this? We do this by seeking credible information. One of the issues that happened during the Joplin tornado is that there wasn't credible information being shared with the community, and one community leader started finding credible information and sharing it through Facebook, and that actually became one of the reasons why Facebook created their check-in, right? The say I'm safe check-in thing, because they were able to share information this way. And at the time, leaders in the community were not really embracing social media at the time, right? It was new or newish. It was normally sent to be the rumors. And so what happens is good leaders are using social media to be able to send information and to be able to find credible information. So seek that credible information and know what those sources are. And then, being able to take that information and create into actionable goals and actionable steps. Use appropriate communication channels, right? And we just talked about the idea of using social media. That is now an appropriate communication channel, right? Using tech like Titan HST, for instance, where that you can have secure communication going back and forth amongst your team. It reduces the emotional stress caused by the unknown. It diminishes fear. It provides tactical guidance, right? And it demonstrates to your employees that the leaders are concerned and involved and knowledgeable and on top of the situation. So sharing that credible information that you got through the appropriate communication channels is key to moving forward during the crisis. Explain what your organization is doing about the crisis. Disseminate good information regarding what you're doing and what your steps are. And don't be afraid to be out in front with your team and saying, this is where we want to go. And if something does happen, be honest and open and say, hey, look, we were trying this way. It didn't work for us. We actually have to pivot again and understand, have them understand what that pivot is. As a leader, you need to be present, visible, and available, right? The idea of the open door concept is there. The idea of being able to talk to or having your employees talk to you or the people who are on your team talk to you in an open and honest way. And be visible. Don't hide. Don't go into your office and close the door during a crisis, because that does not instill confidence in your team. And then the last portion of it is dedicate organizational resources to the future crisis. There's going to be crisis again. This is not the last one that we're going to be dealing with. And so you need to really understand where you're going, take a look at what's going on, plan it out, do your after action review, and dedicate resources to future crises. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And don't forget to visit Titan HST for all your communication needs. And remember to follow us on your favorite podcast player, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and join us next week. And until then, stay safe and stay hydrated.